Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective, but in the 21st century. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jimmy Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too.
What is up?
Yeah, I'm glad to be back on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me as a guest.
If you can't be a host, you might as well be a guest.
I guess so. I mean, I heard the last interview where it's like,
with Tank.
Jimmy was working.
Yeah.
I kept looking at my emails and text messages for the invite.
No, because you're working. It's during work hours.
Yeah, no. I didn't get an invite.
You don't get invited.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
just even a heads up.
Okay, listen. All right, the next time I'm interviewing, I'll tell you right now.
No, we got to take a look at the schedule.
So the next interview coming up is going to be Monday at 10 a.m.
Wow. I mean, it's work hours. It's fine. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I get it.
Whatever.
I see how it goes.
You know what I appreciate about you, Jimmy?
What's that?
Your sensitivity.
Yeah.
Your sensitivity.
One of us has to be.
Yeah. Well, because we were just in an elders meeting, and Jimmy was making an excuse for not, I don't know, being as engaged as an elder.
Wait, what?
And
that didn't happen.
And the excuse was, I had a real rough end of the year.
Yeah, I had a rough end of the year.
Yeah. And what did I say?
Joey, that's not funny.
What did I say at the elders meeting?
You said, "Oh, did your sister and dad die too?"
So, in case you don't know, y'all know if you're a regular listener that my sister died, and then the day after my sister's funeral, my father died.
Not even the day after; it was the night of.
Yeah, well, that night, but I found him the next day. So my dad, a lot of you know, my dad had Huntington's disease, and my mom and my dad moved in with us so that we could take care of them. My mom had several strokes, and my dad had Huntington's disease, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But he kept trucking. And like doing really well for a guy with HD. And he actually came to my sister's funeral, which he does not leave the house because it's just overwhelming for him.
Yeah.
And he's got some mobility issues. I mean, he can walk, but it's easy to fall. So he came and he got kind of stressed out, went home and got him calmed down, gave him his meds, checked on him at night at like 10 o'clock. I'm like, you okay, Dad? He's like, everything's good. I'm like, cool. So he doesn't leave the house, so he doesn't go to church. So I had church, had to do something after church. Picked up lunch for the family, went home, and I was like, hey guys, anybody talk to Dad? They're like, nope. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna go down and check on Dad, and then I'll be back up. So I go downstairs, and he's in bed in his PJs, and he sleeps sometimes during the day.
Yeah.
Head on his hand, like he's posing for like he's pretending to sleep. Like, you put your hands on your head, like make a little hand pillow.
Yeah.
And he was gone. He was gone. I was like, whoa. So I had to go upstairs.
That's a pretty near perfect story with hand and all.
Yeah,
that kind of just, I don't know, it's suspiciously perfect.
It's like it's almost, could be arranged. It's a little too on the nose.
It's a little too on the nose, Joey.
Yeah, well, some people might wonder, but the truth is I really was close with my dad, so I would not do anything to my dad.
Of course not.
But you're suggesting that it could be. That's the thing. And I would. And listen, it was my brother.
Joey, you can't say that. You can't say that.
So my dad went in his sleep. He was a believer, and he and my mom are kicking it with my sister in like heaven with the Lord. All good, but yeah, it definitely was a hard end of the year, and that is a part of why we've been out for a couple of weeks. We were going to take maybe at least a week off for the holidays, but then we took off a couple of weeks because I was dealing with some of that. But, now the kids are, my dad lived in an apartment in our basement. And so the kids are going down there now and they're hanging out and they're not freaked out by it, even though.
Oh, I mean, there's nothing to, I guess, there's nothing to freak out about, but I guess if we feel uneasy.
Yeah. They'd be like, oh, this is like, grandpa's space.
Yeah.
They're all good.
It's just probably just this, feeling of, I don't know, loss, right?
Yeah. So
it just feels different.
And he did die down there. So I do on occasion hint that
Joe, no,
that his ghost could
Joey, why
bother them when they have sleepovers down there. My kids ain't down there.
No, I know they know it.
So, anyways, just so you guys know, we're all good. We love my dad. It's definitely painful to lose somebody. I mean, he was the best man at my wedding because I had lots of friends, but he's the best man that I knew, and so I want to be like him. So, yeah, it's been painful, but we're happy for him. He is in glory, and yeah, and now we have another fridge to hold more soda, so that's good too.
Win-win. I'm sorry. All right, guys, this is how we cope.
This is how we cope.
This is how we cope with things.
The most painful loss of my life was losing my dad.
Yeah.
Even more so than my mom, because my mom was so sick at the end. She
yeah.
had such a long run of suffering. I was happy when she died because now she was a little. My dad was just surprised, like, what the heck? Right after my sister. That's painful. So, yeah, that's how we cope. All right. Well, listen.
Yeah, the week after it happens, Joe's like, yeah, I'm not sure. Because, Joe is a stoic guy. Like, he's not, you know what I mean?
I'm not, yeah, I'm either annoyed or I'm happy. That's about it.
So he texts, he's like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not feeling well right now. Maybe coming down with a cold or a flu. I'm like, well, Joe, the water coming from your eyes are tears.
Yeah.
And the pain in your heart, that's called grief.
Oh.
Take some time, buddy.
I'm pretty sure that's the flu. That's the only explanation I can come up with.
Maybe I have COVID.
I think it's, I don't know. I don't think it's that, though. Yeah. So, all right. So here's something to talk about. And, we would have normally got to this earlier. But,
Oh, yeah. This is
my
back
dad died and everything.
Yeah. All right. You're going to use that for how long?
Oh, and
the first quarter?
Until it doesn't work anymore.
Until it doesn't work?
Yeah. Until
it stopped
people
working.
People are like, hey, man, you're not really hitting your deadlines. I'm like, well, I would have. But my sister died, and then next week my dad died, so why don't you cut me some slack? And they're like, oh, yeah. Sorry, man. Sorry, bro. That's what they do. So I put out a tweet. And
this is December 11th.
Yeah. And listen, I don't tweet a ton. And but, this came out of some things that I see quite a bit. I said on Twitter, I've grown weary of self-appointed teachers, quote, reformers, and shock jock personalities pretending to be prophets and shepherds. Why does anyone listen to them? Stay close to your local church and pastors who are held accountable. I feel like that is a pretty sane and measured tweet.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I'm wrong.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No. I mean, I think,
it's very qualified.
It's very qualified. And I think in our day and age, everyone assumes there's some context that you're subtweeting somebody.
Oh, you're thinking of somebody. No,
you're thinking of somebody in particular.
I could pick like 4 or 5 people that this would apply to that I know of, but it's a bigger problem.
It's a bigger problem, and yeah, I thought the tweet. I'm trying to look at any line on there or any word or phrase that I could disagree with.
This is what's hang on. So this is what's bothering me about it is like I said, I've grown weary. Who am I weary of? So not just anybody I disagree with.
Yep.
These people that I'm weary of are some sort of teacher or preacher, or they call themselves a reformer, or I perceive them to be a shock jock personality. We can talk about that. But these are people that are self-appointed, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that they are not held accountable by a local church. They don't have an authority over them. They are authority unto themselves. They are shock jock, meaning they are pushing people's buttons on purpose for clicks and views.
Yep.
Okay.
To get reactions.
But they're putting themselves forth as a prophet or a shepherd. So I'm thinking of particular kinds of personalities and encouraging people like, don't listen to them. My encouragement is very simple. So I'm basically saying like, hey, careful of those guys.
Careful of the online.
Yeah. In particular, that's where it's going to be found. What I'd like you to do, stay close to your local church.
Get offline.
Where you have local pastors.
Yep.
Who are held accountable by a congregation or a synod or whatever, whatever your form of polity is. I feel like that's,
I mean, would any of us disagree? Like that's the thing. Like, even looking at the responses, I'm trying to find even someone that just says, no, why should I follow anyone that's held accountable? Like, I'm not seeing anybody that's actually disagreeing with the tweet itself.
Yeah, it's like when you go down, well, here's a guy.
There might be cynical views.
Yeah, right. So this guy, Abe Bagby, he said, held accountable, in quotes, realistically means slaves to the people who pay their salary, unfortunately. And those people tend to have itching ears these days. sometimes these reformers tell it like it is.
Tell it like it is.
Precisely. It's not what he says, but that's what he means. Tell it like it is. Precisely because they don't answer to anyone but God's judgment. And I said, well, this is a cynical take on local churches, because to say held accountable realistically means slaves to the people who pay their salary. So that's a general statement. If accountability, as I said it, in his mind, realistically means, that means this is the general truth, that these are slaves to people who pay their salary. I think that is a cynical take. Certainly that happens, but I haven't experienced it. Nor have I haven't experienced it personally, nor have I seen it in any of the churches I've been a part of. People are willing to say what needs to be said.
Yeah.
They're not held accountable. So, I also said it denies what Scripture prescribes for leaders and churches, meaning that, like, listen, if you say that doesn't work because it just means you're a slave to somebody who pays your salary, well, then you're denying what Scripture calls us to do. That's the implication in my mind. Mm-hmm. But that sort of went off the rails. Abe was, upset that I was being too harsh with him for saying that was a cynical take. So he says, here's the thing. Okay, so I said, this is not only a cynical take on local churches, but it denies what Scripture prescribes for leaders and churches. And he says it does no such thing. That's being very harsh to my reply. I don't feel like I'm being harsh. So Jimmy, you help me if I am, because if I'm being harsh.
No, I didn't think so. I mean, like I said, it's a generalization. Obviously, Abe has potentially maybe has had a bad church experience. And listen, I'm going to say this. The point he's making is it's a general statement, which I think is unfair, not it's unhelpful in this, right? Because it's a overgeneralization.
He should say held accountable sometimes means. That would have changed the whole tweet,
exactly.
But not realistically means.
Correct. Because I think he's right. There have been instances, and I've seen those instances where pastors are, pastors or even associate pastors,
mm-hmm.
right, are afraid, unwilling to say the hard truths because they don't want to lose their job. Mm-hmm. They don't want to lose the paycheck. Like, they are looking at, hey, where else could I go so I can get out of this situation, but not actually dealing with the situation at hand.
Yeah.
But again, for me, at least in it's a small subset. So to say it's generally everybody, I think is unfair.
Yeah. But, again, it could be a good conversation. It's like a lot of absolutes, or close to those sort of things. One woman, Pioneer Princess Texas, said, pastors that are held accountable, haven't seen too many of those. Sad truth. And yeah, that's a reality. There are a lot of pastors that are not held accountable. That's like I'm encouraging people to stay close to your local church. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are going to say, like, well, but in my local church, the pastor runs everything. He's the Pope, and that's an unhealthy church. I would say, don't stay there if that's the case. That's not healthy at all. Obviously I'm trying to encourage people to evaluate who they're listening to. I think, the tweet in my mind was because I just see a lot of guys who have been at it for like 3 years, which doesn't make them wrong, but who are like, really kind of presenting themselves as reformers and authorities when they have very little credibility in my mind. Some of these people. And
what gives them credibility?
Sustained ministry.
Okay.
Over a period of time.
Okay.
Fruitful ministry. Which can be measured in a variety of ways. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, when I look at a guy, even guys that I disagree with, they've been at it for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's like, oh, well, they have some credibility built up because they're not new. They've been tested. They've been proven. They've been faithful. And you can look at their body of work to evaluate, like, oh, look at what they've said, So one of these guys was like, you must not have been at this long if you can't see what I'm trying to say. And I'm like, well, over 20 years, which doesn't make me right, by the way. I said, it doesn't mean I'm wise, but I don't. So like I get it, and I think there absolutely is a place for people to be prophetic and to speak, and I'm sure that there are rare occasions when somebody isn't emerging out of a healthy church. But people that do not emerge out of a healthy church with accountability and start some kind of, watch blogger ministry or whatever, and then never come under that are untethered and therefore untrustworthy to me. I don't like who are these people? Like for me, that's where I get concerned. And there was one other thing that somebody said. I can't find it. But somebody was like, you always make these vague things. Why don't you just call people out? If you're thinking about somebody, why don't you just call people out? And my aunt, like Scripture calls people out. And the reality is, well, yeah, sometimes Paul calls people out, and sometimes he speaks in generalities. If I need to call somebody out, I'm happy to do that. But for example, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, for the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions. It says, but false prophets in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 1, so false prophets also arose among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you who secretly do this. Or in 1 Timothy chapter 6, if anyone teaches a doctrine that does not agree with the sound words of our Lord, he is puffed up, conceited, and understands that. He's not always identifying specific people. Sometimes we're dealing with principles, and that's what I was trying to do with this.
And I think the principle is sound.
Well, again, I'm not specifically saying that we don't need reformers. We do, but like this, it's the self-appointed thing. It's like we wouldn't. Who wants to? I don't know. I'm just very confused. Why? I'm not confused. I think people are drawn, and you tell me what you think. Why are people drawn to self-appointed, platformed people that are not held accountable to a local church? Why would there be an appeal there?
Well, I think part of it is there's this sense of anti-establishment, right?
Yep.
Sense of anti-establishment,
which is cool. This is a cool American thing.
It's a cool American thing, right?
It's rock and roll.
And look here, they're not tethered by Big Eva, right? They're not tethered by that. They're just speaking the word. They're speaking what God is saying. They've got the spirit of the prophet with them. And I think for some, because it's appealing, it's also an excuse for their own sin. It's like it's an excuse or validation or justification for how they interact with people around them.
So in the case of those self-appointed guys that are rather combative and not very compassionate, like it excuses their, I could see that.
And not just that, I'm talking about those people that really gravitate. For them, it excuses their own.
That's
right?
what I get you. I also think that like there's something, like a lot of these guys, here's the thing, a lot of these self-appointed, here's what I said, self-appointed teachers, reformers, and shock jock personalities, many of them are very gifted. They're gifted by God. They've got good brains. They're good with words, and they would serve a far greater purpose if they were actually held accountable by a local church, if they had elders over them to not only talk to them about what they're saying, but how they're saying it. Right. We all need, like I recently liked a tweet. Some guy said something, and he was actually pointing out another guy's problems. And the guy there's Twitter person number one. I don't have the tweet in front of me. Twitter person number one is essentially calling out Twitter person number two and saying like, man, like you're at the seminary I went to. It's super embarrassing for me. I wish you weren't associated with the seminary, something like that. So I liked his tweet because so much of what I see this guy write, his book and everything, I have major problems with. Well, then I was called out for liking a tweet that blasphemed the name of God, because at the top of his tweet, which I didn't see because I'm careless, it said, "God, you're awful." And then he said what he wanted to say. Ooh. And so I had to say, listen, I am sorry for liking a tweet that trivialized God's name. I'm not down with that.
No, not at all.
But I actually got his point, right? Like I still affirm his general point. Like, your writing is embarrassing for me as a member of the seminary that you're now at. And now the guy that did the original tweet has apologized for his tweet. He's like, I shouldn't have said it at all. I'm so sorry. But I still I think that guy is embarrassing. But yeah, I had to apologize for part of it. And, if the Lord convicts me that I need to apologize for liking his tweet at all, I'll do that. But so far he hasn't done that. But yeah, I felt bad. You got to be willing to do that. And, but I went and talked to Brian about it right away when this whole thing happened.
Yeah.
Well, I let one of the elders know, because I have elders. If the elders told me like, hey, dummy, you need to fix that, I would do that. I would submit to the elders. Elders tell me what to do, man. I'm gonna do it, even if I disagree. I'm like okay. That's why God gave me the elders He gave me, just like He gave you the elders He gave you.
Yep.
Unless you have an unhealthy church.
But see, here's the thing I know about you, Joe, is let's go ahead and paint this. Let's redo this. Let's redo this in the best.
Got it.
All right.
I'm good.
And I'm hesitant to name one individual, like one teacher, because there's going to be something about what they've written or said that someone's going to disagree with. So,
okay,
I can envision you tweeting out, "Hey, enjoy and get what you can." I'm not going to keep those 140 characters. Get what you can from Dever, Keller, Piper, MacArthur, right? Like, get what you can from them.
Sure.
But stay close to your local church and your pastors who are held accountable.
Yeah.
So, like you, in the same vein, because I think what, some people here may have missed because I'm kind of scrolling through, is like your focus is not just on them, but your main point is hey, local church is what is important.
Yeah, that's good.
You could supplement, enjoy them, get what you
can.
Where
were you when this was going down? And my dad was dying, by the way. Where were you? Because it was on the 11th. Where were you? You could have said, hey, now do a follow-up. You could have said that, but now you just left me hanging.
I was covering your responsibilities.
Oh, like what?
At the preaching.
Oh, that's easy.
What? Anyways, along with my own.
I totally agree with that.
But you see what I'm saying?
This is addressing the negative, but you can also address the positive.
Address the positive,
and then make the same point.
Exactly.
That would have been a good follow-up.
Exactly. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for nothing.
You're welcome. But because I think I know you, and like we both agree on that. These are good teachers.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do another one and do a part two. And instead of saying I've grown weary of self-appointed teachers, I'll say I'm very thankful for church-appointed teachers and reformers who are faithful prophets and shepherds, but be sure and stay closest to your church and pastors who are held. I'm going to do that
because I know you. Yeah, all these guys, like you and I, have enjoyed, learning from them from afar.
And listen, like even people that we disagree with, like
there's things I disagree with MacArthur, but there's a lot of things.
Dever, all of them. I don't agree with any of those guys 100%.
Exactly.
And I would say, because Piper and Keller, Piper, I probably have most in line with Dever. I would have more issues with the other three, but like they all three have been greatly used of God. And you can resource. I mean,
even ministries, right? Like even we've talked about it before, right? There's certain things and certain styles, like with founders. Yeah. But when I was in Canada, and I didn't have a lot of resources, and I was trying to the Lord was kind of really using scripture, and I was trying to I just reform theology, and just for me it was scriptural, but I didn't have the flesh. I didn't have flesh to the bones. I didn't have the words.
Yeah.
But Founders Ministry.
You got those journals?
The journals, being able to
love those journals.
Exactly. Being able to kind of learn from a distance, right? But still at that time, even though my local church, there was some disagreements that I had.
Sure.
I was still invested in my local church.
Oh, yeah.
But yet still being fed and encouraged by a ministry from afar, right? And I think it's the same for all these writers and all these things that we have, and they're good. They're good things to engage with and to learn from. But the local church,
man, I had a good conversation with a brother. He was a member here, and then he moved to California years ago, and joined MacArthur's church. That's where he landed in that area. Wanted to join MacArthur's church, and he's a really good example, I think, of a dude, faithful Christian dude. Really like him a lot. I wish he moved back here. But he was back in town, so we were hanging out and having sushi and stuff. And I said, so how are things going? And listen, I have some issues with some of the things that MacArthur has said and done over the years, but I'm not picking on him about it. I'm minding my own business. But he brought it up. He's like, these accusations about how they handled church discipline in the past or sexual abuse in the past. He brought it up, and I said, so how are you processing all that stuff? And he said, well, I didn't want to just cut and run. He said, I really wanted to pray through it. I wanted to talk to people. I'm still being very built up and encouraged, not only by the preaching there, but by the fellowship of the saints. Lots of great Christians there. And, like for all that, people might want to say, like, you got to get out of there. Like, I really appreciated that he was like, I may wind up dipping out, as I'm processing this stuff.
Yeah.
But he's not ignoring anything.
Not ignoring it. But also not taking everything.
Yeah, he's not just reacting fast.
Yes.
He's talking to a lot of people that have, worked behind the scenes there, and he's figuring stuff out.
Now, does that lend to what you mentioned earlier about the credibility, right? Like in the sense of, hey, maybe not give people the benefit of the doubt wholesale, right? In depending on the situation. Again, every situation is going to be different, but it is different if it's someone new, 3 years in, less than 5. I'm probably cutting pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to know. And listen, as a general rule, I give people the benefit of the doubt. That's my general default, unless you've given me reason not to.
Yeah,
and that's when I start to question. And so, like, and when evidence comes out, and lawyers start talking and people start sharing, it's like, okay, well, then let's look at all of this and then respond appropriately. But yeah, no, I mean, a guy that's been at it. But I've also learned this. I've known guys that have been at it for a long time who completely flame out, who completely destroy churches and marriages. Man, it's just like
associations.
Yeah, which is why you don't you give the benefit of the doubt as a starting point. But as soon as evidence comes up, then you just got to be fair. You really got to be fair about it. And fair doesn't mean protect your buddy.
Yes.
Fair means protect the innocent.
Yep.
All right. So if your buddy's not innocent, you don't protect him. You do the right thing.
That's right.
I definitely want to protect the innocent. If there's slander going on, man, then I want to let's call it out and prove that it's slander.
Yep.
But So are you still sick? Jimmy got sick. I got sick. Lots of people in our church got sick. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you were out for what? Were you out for a full week?
No. I was feeling it earlier. I crashed Wednesday night, and then Thursday, Friday.
You woke up Saturday.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Then I woke up. Yeah, this morning my alarm goes off because we had the elders meeting.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I start hacking up, and I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'll make it. I haven't been to I didn't go to the last elders meeting. Yeah. We've had a bit of a.
Oh, I know you had a real rough, hard end of the year. Yeah, it was real tough for you.
Why are you the way that you are? Why are you the way that you are?
So is it like you get to come home and you look and your father's chair is empty? The thing is Jimmy will actually get sad if
but I know you, and I mean, theoretically speaking, every day I go into work, and I see my dad's empty chair, but he's filling the one in Jamaica.
It just feels.
No. My dad's also in paradise.
Yeah. Oh,
that was better.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, your dad has to pay for it. Yeah. See, that's so cool, dude. How do you even how do you even maintain a friendship with anybody when you that they're hurting and they need support?
No, but that's
and
just
then
it.
you just mock.
No.
And
this
you
is
make fun of their
the support.
Dead
this
relatives.
is the support I know you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think our listeners know that I'm a sensitive person.
Oh yeah,
and,
sure.
Although I was talking to the last episode. Yeah, last episode. I was talking to our buddy Wheels, Ed Romine. And I don't even know how it came up, but somehow I said something like, bro, you sit around all the time. I said something like that.
No.
he just he laughs so hard. He is, and again, he makes fun of me. We all make fun of each other. It's whatever. We're not, there's much love. That dude has the best heart and humor of most people that I know. He's way at the top. People that are not at our church, has a great sense of humor and is able to laugh at the things that are painful, Yeah.
And
for some of us, not for everybody.
No.
Not everybody's good at that. Helps us.
Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You could follow us online on Instagram and Twitter at Doc and Devo, or on Facebook /Doctrine and Devotion. You can head to the website, doctrineanddevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast at the store, jofostore.com, and grab some gear. We got that fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. We got blog posts and video content over at the website. And we've got that all-access exclusive content. You got the Banter of Truth on Tuesdays. You got Weekday Wisdom Monday through Friday. You can go ahead and click on the link on your podcast player that says support this podcast, or head on over to doctrineanddevotion.com /all access and sign up today. Later.